Unica website. I will send you the link by chat. And for the rest, enjoy the webinar. And yes, I will give now the floor to our president, the Unica President, Luciano Saso, for the welcome addresses.
Hello to everyone. It is a pleasure for me to be here. I'm Luciano Saso. I'm the president of Unica. Unica is an association of 55 universities based in 38 capital cities. Activities for students are very important for Unica. We organize several of them. And this webinar today is part of a series of webinars in which we try to provide information useful to students, to recent graduates, to PhD candidates, about what they will find after they will finish their studies in the labor market, the different opportunities for their careers, different jobs. And we know that in the sector of pharma and biotech, and in general, also for young doctors, very often there are opportunities which are not very well known to you, young students and graduates. So I think it's very useful for for you to participate in these webinars, in which we try to have every time different angles to propose different career opportunities. And today it's really a pleasure to introduce many excellent speakers who will actually show you again different opportunities out there. This series is organized by Unica in cooperation with the European Pharmaceutical Student Association. It's really a pleasure to have with us today Ruben Viegas, the Vice President for External Relations of this association. And then more recently, we also opened a collaboration with the Association of the Faculties of Pharmacy in Europe. And I would like to thank very much Lilian Azzopardi, the President of this association. She's also head of Department of Pharmacy at the University of Malta. And this association, Unica, is also cooperating a lot with many other organizations, but in this case, these are the two main actors in this webinar. I want to thank also very much Josse Thomas. He's a guest lecturer at KU Leuven in Belgium and senior consultant at PharmaCS. We started this series actually before COVID, organizing events in person. After COVID, of course, we went through a difficult moment in which we almost stopped, to organize events. But then we decided to have webinars, and in the end, I think it's also a good opportunity to organize this kind of webinars. I also want to thank Sibel Süzen, the professor of Faculty of Pharmacy at Ankara University and member of the Unica Steering Committee, for partnering with me in this series. So I will stop here. I just want to give the floor now to Ruben Viegas for a short welcome address.
Thank you very much, Luciano. As I said, my name is Ruben Viegas. I'm from Portugal. I'm also a PhD student in the Faculty of Pharmacy of Lisbon, because you mentioned the PhD students is something that we in EPSA are also trying to reach more. EPSA is the European Pharmaceutical Student Association representing pharmacy students around Europe. It's with great pleasure that we collaborate with Unica and also with EAFP, for example, in our methodology booklet, which collects the opinions of the students regarding the pharma curricula and other aspects. We will look forward to keep collaborating with you, and I'll give back the word. Thank you, Luciano.
Thank you very much, Ruben. And now it's a pleasure to give the floor to Professor Sibel Süzen.
Thank you, Professor Saso. This is our fourth Unica student webinar on pharma and biomedical careers in Europe. This time we have cooperation with very important people with us. We have collaboration with European Association of Faculties of Pharmacy, and the President, Professor Azzopardi, is with us, along with EPSA, of course. So I'm very happy to take this part in this very interesting and inspiring meeting, especially for the new graduates. Like Professor Saso mentioned, it is quite a new subject for the world, not for the Europe. So I believe it's a good opportunity for pharmacy, also pharmacy-related students. I find this platform very useful, important, since the students, academicians, also the pharmaceutical company managers, managers, chiefs. We can discuss and share experiences as well as questions and problems. So we have so much to learn about from European Medicines Agency. Also, we have a speaker with us today. Again, biopharmaceutical industry and medical affairs, which we have chance today to discuss these issues. The biotech sector is becoming a key player in driving biopharma innovations. Biotech companies are now responsible for maybe 70% of clinic trials, which is very, very important. And we know that modern technology products and processes are very important part of many countries, not for only Europe. So for the healthcare, of course, and Europe has world-class research institutions, medical centers, and hospitals that provide a strong basis for sourcing that developing, and it is a good opportunity to share these experiences in here. So I will cut it short because we have many valuable speakers. I would like to thank all these speakers for their participation, and of course, thank UNICA for this beautiful organization. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sibel. And now I would like to give the floor to Lilian Azzopardi, the President of the European Association of the Faculties of Pharmacy.
Thank you, Professor Saso, and good afternoon to all. It's a pleasure for the European Association of Faculties of Pharmacy to collaborate with UNICA on this very important event to get pharmacy students, science students, and graduates exposed to the variety and opportunities of pharmaceutical sciences and research that are out there. So it's a very nice opportunity for EAFP to network with these collaborating partners. And it's also a pleasure for me to be on board on this platform with colleagues, Professor Saso and Professor Süzen. And for sure, the important focus of all our day-to-day activities as academics are our students. So it's a pleasure to be with you all in this family of students from different parts of Europe, where we will have the reflections from the regulatory side, from EMA, as well as the opportunities in research and science in the manufacturing field. So thank you again, Professor Saso, for the opportunity to network with the EAFP, and I look forward to be able to follow up on this session. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lilian. And now it is a great pleasure to leave the floor to Josse Thomas, who also will introduce the first speaker. And with Josse, it has been a great pleasure to work for a long time now. We met several years ago. We even visited Malta together once. Lilian, I'm sure you remember that we did an event together there. And recently, again, as I said, we organized these webinars together, trying to identify good speakers on different topics. And let me also remind all participants that this webinar is being recorded. So you can also tell your friends and colleagues, to watch it later. This is one of the few opportunities, that we have now in this COVID era. And also you can actually watch the previous webinars. They're online on the website of UNICA. So I leave the floor to Professor Thomas now.
Yeah, that is my pleasure to be part of the organizing committee. And I just want to reiterate a warm welcome to all of you, and especially thank the speakers for their willingness, their prompt willingness to share their precious time with us and share their experiences with the students. So without further ado, I would like to start with the first session. The first session is on opportunities, job and career opportunities in the European institutions. And the first speaker will be Kristof Bonnarens from the Directorate General Santé of the European Commission. Kristof started off as an industrial pharmacist in for a short period in the pharmaceutical industry, but quickly moved to the Belgian agency for medicines and health products. There he was responsible for clinical trials for a long time, and then he switched careers to the Association of Belgian Pharmaceutical Companies for a number of years. And then since 2019, I think about 2 years now, he is working as a policy officer pharmaceuticals at DG Santé. So he is well suited, I think, to speak to us about working for and with European authorities. Kristof, the Zoom is yours.
Thank you, Josse, and thank you everybody for the chance to be able to share some experiences here today. I've made a few slides that I hope you can see.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I was waiting for that confirmation. So thank you for the introduction. Thank you for the chance of talking here today. I will not talk for a long time, but I hope you will have some questions and some comments for me. But anyway, without further ado, let's take a look, because Josse already introduced me somewhat. I have a quite special career, quite unusual career for a civil servant, I might say. I started my career 21 years ago, seems like an eternity, in pharmaceutical industry. I am a pharmacist by training with a specialization in industrial pharmacy, and I did an internship in a pharmaceutical company that still exists today. The name does even still exist, called Alcon. Alcon produces ocular preparations, and I worked in the GMP environment there. After a few months, after my internship, basically, I switched to a company called Conforma, which is a small company near Ghent, where I studied, which makes magistral preparations as a quite specific field. I also worked in the GMP environment there. And after 2 years working there, 2 years working in pharmaceutical industry, I started working for the Belgian Federal Agency for Medicines and Health Products. That agency is the agency for medicines in Belgium, so the place where I live and grew up. I worked there for 11 years, basically focusing on clinical trials and clinical trials matters. I had several roles there. I started as a contractual agent with a contract for 1 year, then had a prolongation for a contract of a long nature. Then had an official nomination. In 2009, I became the head of the division for clinical trials, and in 2016, I left the agency to work with Pharma.be, which is the association of the pharmaceutical industry. So that would be the lobby organizations that lobby the Belgian authorities. I worked on several topics there, biotech, innovation in the big sense. I worked on things like biosimilar policies. So basically everything that had to do with innovation and biotech at an authority level. And yeah, a little bit less than 2 years ago, I changed jobs again to start working for the European Commission. And I want to give you a little bit of an introduction in the European Commission. And I thought for a long time on how to do this, because if you get started in a discussion on European policy, European decision making, that could last for a few hours. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. I just want to tell you and show you a little bit of the basic concepts. And this is perhaps a picture that some of you might recognize. It's the current College of Commissioners, there's 27 European commissioners. Within the center here, Ursula von der Leyen, quite known as the president of the Commission, and perhaps a little bit less known, but for me, of course, very important, is the lady on the left side in purple on the third row. She's called Stella Kyriakides, and she's the Commissioner for Health. So she's my political responsible. What do you need to know about European Commission? Well, The European Commission is a decision body. They decide on the Commission's and on Europe's, the European Union's political and strategic direction, each one of them in a specific policy area on a specific field. There is a 5-year cycle there, which returns every 5 years. And basically what the Commission and its staff and its public servants behind them do is shape the European Union's general strategy, to propose new European laws, new European policy, to monitor implementation of those policies, and to manage the European budget. The European Union also, of course, plays a significant role in supporting international collaboration, international aid, which has been demonstrated quite well by what happened the last year with COVID-19. Don't worry too much, I'm not going to explain this organigram into detail. It's just showing you that if you come a level closer, and I already talked about the Commissioner Stella Kyriakides, who is in charge of health and food safety. This is the organization that is behind it. It's called DG Santé. What you need to know about the Commission as such is the Commission is organized in different policy departments, known as Directorates General, each responsible for a different policy area. Those DGs do the concrete work of implementing European law, implementing European policy, and they can deal with specific issues. What you can see here, and I sincerely hope you can see my mouse moving, is that there's a big duality in this organigram. We have a big part on the left-hand side led by a colleague called Pierre Delceau, which is basically focusing on health system, on public health issues, doing things like cross-border healthcare, examining the performance of national health systems, medicinal products. There's 2 units in charge of medicinal products. Public health issues like health security, international relations, health promotion, and so forth and so on. That for the health side. The other 4 at the more right-hand side are more about food and food safety. Historically, the European Union had a rather big mandate for food safety, stemming from some scandals in the 90s, whereas health and public health still are, for a major part, national responsibilities, with the exceptions of things like medicines policies, tobacco control, and so forth and so on. So it's a rather big organization. There's a little bit more than 600 people working for DG Santé. And as you can imagine, last year we had some significant changes, all due to COVID-19 and the COVID-19 situation. What am I doing in this, and where am I in this organogram? Well, I work for Unit B4. B4 does medicinal products, quality, safety, and innovation. We tackle things like clinical trials, good manufacturing processes, advanced therapy medicinal products, good manufacturing processes, I already said, international collaboration, the steering of the International Conference on Harmonization, for instance, is in our team. There is another medicines unit that is in charge of everything that is medicines authorization. So those were the colleagues, for instance, that gave the authorization for the COVID-19 vaccines. And then coming back to my individual person, what do I do on a day-to-day basis? Well, I summarized it here in 4 bullets. Before last year, I would say I had 2 major tasks. My objective was to implement a piece of legislation called the Clinical Trial Regulation, which is a legal text that describes how clinical research with medicines are governed throughout the Union. It is in relative terms a rather small legislation, but of course you can imagine that it's quite an important piece of legal text when you're into medicines development or research on medicines. And I did 2 things on this. One, I supported the implementation of the Clinical Trial Regulation. So that this means working together with European Parliament, with my commissioner, with my internal hierarchy, to take initiatives, to make guidances, to give interpretations on that piece of legislation, together, of course, with a team of people within my organization and with external stakeholders, both from national authorities or industry associations or patient organizations, you name it. Everybody that has something to do with clinical trials. I also have a project where I supervise the development of an IT portal called Clinical Trial Information System. So that's a little bit the core of my tasks. Last year, we had, with the start of the COVID-19 crisis, some internal shifts, and I was asked to coordinate as well the representation of my organization in the management board of the European Medicines Agency, for which Philip, who comes behind me, will give you some more insight. So basically what we are doing as a commission is we have 2 seats in the management board from the agency that drives their policies, things like recruitment, budgetary matters, major initiatives, and roadmaps. So it's really the policy steering of what the EMA management, of what the European Medicines Agency does. And the last one is perhaps the most exotic one and quite ad hoc. As you all know, since February of this year, we had some issues in Europe with COVID-19 vaccines and their deliveries into the Union, and the export of vaccines produced in Europe outside of the Union. I've been in charge, together with some of my colleagues, on maintaining a scheme that supervises the export of all the COVID-19 vaccines outside of Europe, which is a quite political and exciting dossier, as you can imagine. But of course, I was not asked here today to talk about me and my work. What I wanted to show you with this slide is that, well, as a member of a European authority, we have some quite detailed, quite expertise, and quite well, ad hoc tasks that we should do. So what would be the general thoughts I would give on working with authorities? Well, first of all, I said it already, working for an authority means, for me at least, that you have a diverse set of tasks and functions that could be related to biomedical topics, not by definition, of course, but there are a lot of biomedical aspects that are governed by authorities. I'm coming back to what I know best, medicines legislation. Medicines are, I think, arguably after the airport sector, air travel, the most regulated sector in Europe. There are a lot of rules related to the production, research, sale, authorization, follow-up of medicine. So it's a very, very big team, a very, very broad team that is also very European and even international in nature. As you could hear from my explanation, policy functions like mine, like other functions within the administration, can be extremely detailed. It is expert work. You will, what I saw in my career is work at a specific legislation that I'm supposed to be one of the experts about. Other people within the organization, other pharmacists, other doctors, work on other fields, but the common denominator would be that the work is expert work. You're not there to check people's taxes or to do random clicks on a computer. You're there for your expertise and your work on biomedical topics. That could mean that you could understand that as there is you work all alone, you're the expert and you decide on everything. That is unfortunately, I would say, not always very true. You need to have, as an individual within a big organization, within big authorities, a concrete mandate from the authority, which implies a lot of teamwork. You need to be linked to your political responsibilities, to your own hierarchy, to the work that your colleagues are doing, to the work that national authorities are doing, in order to have a story, in order to have a policy that is aligned. What is, of course, a very big and returning theme is networking with other experts and networking in a very broad sense. I work with people throughout Europe and even in a global fashion the last couple of months to be sure that the policies we do are good for Europe. So that's actually a source of satisfaction for me personally, the fact to be able to work with experts throughout Europe. What is very different from working in companies or in the private sector is that your career as such in an authority is defined by legislation. To avoid that people get nominated on interesting functions in a sort of random and politically driven way, the legislator, both at national levels and at European levels, have defined very detailed how you can be recruited, how you can work for an authority. And that recruitment pathway is not always linked to the function. What do I mean with it? I mean with it that a lot of colleagues that I know have come into rather general selections on competencies of looking for, I would say, fit persons and fit competency traits rather than their expertise with biomedical topics. That's one. I want to show you this through this slide. I'm not going to read it because that would be a waste of your time. But the message I want to bring.
Sorry to interrupt you, but you still have 2 minutes, okay?
Okay, thank you. And I still have 3 slides, so that will go quite well, I think. What do I want to say with this slide? That if you want to work for authorities, European national ones, they will recruit through a competency framework, through looking for, do you have the behavior you're looking for? And it's things like what is listed on this slide: analysis and problem solving, good communication skill, a focus on delivering quality and results, being able to learn and development throughout your whole career, working on your personal skills, and the ability to prioritize and organize yourself. So if you have those skills and if you have an interest to work for European authorities, I would say this is the website you need to go to. You need to take a look. I left it here just for you to be able to take a look. And then some specific advice coming from me as an old guy that has worked for several authorities and that had some jumps in his career. If you want to work for an authority, you need to put you need to take some things in mind. First of all, your entry working for an authority, the first entry into an authority might be very unglamorous. You will not be the expert. You will not be able to travel throughout Europe. That comes after a while, believe me, if you have the capacities and the skills. But in the beginning, you might not be doing the most glamorous work. Second of all, you need to research if you want for an authority. Authorities usually do not headhunt, usually do not publish vacancies on the usual vacancy sites in the different countries, but make vacancies aware through their own channels, like the one I showed you on the previous slide. If you want to work for an authority, that's my third bullet. Inform yourself on the contract modalities. What kind of contract are you being offered? Are you going for a permanent position, for a contractual position? Are you enrolling for an internship that is unpaid? Take care of this. Take also care that the payment grade is fixed. The authorities cannot negotiate on payment usually. And salary calculation, that is all public, but you should be mindful because the comparison with the private sector is from time to time very dangerous. I'm giving you some examples here. Leave rights might not be the same. You might not be accepted in certain functions if you have conflicts of interest. For instance, if your wife would be working for a pharmaceutical company, you cannot do my job. Pension rights might be different. So please, if you have any doubts on this, contact and you're offered a contract, contact the HR services to pinpoint what the exact rules are. What I want to tell you as well, is that candidacies for public functions will be reviewed against a checklist that is in the vacancy and the job description. And completeness is key. This means they will ask you for a copy of your diploma, and you might be a pharmacist for 20 years, but if you cannot produce that diploma, you will not be eligible for the next steps for an interview or things like that. So completeness is key. Do not think, oh, I'm the ideal candidate, I will write a nice letter, and the rest of the documents that are not that important. Completeness is key. People looking at this really use a checkbox approach, and when something is missing, you might not be eligible for the job. A spontaneous candidacy, it's always a good idea wherever you want to go. It might get you on a contact list and might get you contacted by HR services, depending a little bit on the customs within the organization you're applying for. I was made aware, and that's just anecdotal, I was made aware by the opening of general vacancy for the job I'm doing now through being on a contact list that was 5 years ago. So do not hesitate to reach out. This was what I had to say. I, of course, stuck to the timeline, perhaps a little bit less. I would say if you would have any questions, don't hesitate to ask them to me later on in this session, or just link me on LinkedIn and drop me a message there. I will be happy to oblige. Perhaps not always immediate, but you will get an answer. Thank you very much for your attention, and up to the next speaker. Good luck.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you very much, Kristof. Very interesting. I think your talk has been an eye-opener for the participants, because I guess many young people do not consider immediately as a first